Have you ever heard of a prison so secure, so feared, that people believed escaping from it was impossible? A prison built on a lonely rock in the middle of the ocean, where the most dangerous criminals were sent to disappear. Welcome to Alcatraz, also known as the Rock. But what if I told you that in 1962, three ordinary men did the unthinkable? They vanished from this inescapable prison and were never seen again. No bodies, no arrests, just a daring escape that has haunted American law enforcement for over 60 years. This is the mind-blowing true story of the Great Alcatraz Escape, the most legendary prison break in history. In San Francisco, USA, there's a small island in the middle of the sea called Alcatraz Island. Over the years, this island was used as a lighthouse, a fort, and a military prison. But in 1934, it became a federal prison. The island is 22 acres wide and built on a huge rock in the ocean, which is why it's also called the Rock. The inescapable prison from 1934 to 1963, some of the most dangerous criminals in America were kept in Alcatraz. This included Al Capone, George Kelly, and Robert Stroud. The prison was made so secure that it was nearly impossible for anyone to escape. It was surrounded by freezing cold waters of the Pacific Ocean and violent waves. Inside, there were strong iron bars, high fences with barbed wire, security checks 12 times a day, and guards watching 24/7 from towers. All of this made Alcatraz the most secure prison in the country. That's why it was called the inescapable prison. But on the morning of June 12, 1962, everything changed. The news shocked the entire country. Not one, but three prisoners had escaped from Alcatraz. They disappeared in the dark night, right under the noses of the guards. All that was left behind were fake heads made of plaster lying in their beds to fool the prison staff. The four prisoners were involved in this daring escape: Alan West, Frank Morris, and brothers John and Clarence Anglin. Alan West was a repeat offender, arrested more than 20 times for theft. He had tried to escape from other prisons many times, so in 1957, he was transferred to Alcatraz. Frank Morris was very smart with an IQ of 133. He had been abandoned by his parents at age 11 and started committing crimes by 13. He spent most of his life in and out of jail. After escaping from a prison in Louisiana, he was finally sent to Alcatraz in 1960. All four men had two things in common. They were thieves, and they had tried to escape from prisons before. So, they quickly became friends. Whether they were eating in the mess hall or working, they stayed close together and secretly discussed their plan to escape. Frank Morris was the brains behind the plan. Alan West had lived in Alcatraz long enough to know its structure and weaknesses. The Anglin brothers were good swimmers, which would help them cross the dangerous sea. Getting closer to escape, they found out that only Block B had a ventilation shaft that was not sealed with concrete. So they convinced the prison staff to move them all into nearby cells in Block B. Once that was done, their real work began. Behind each prison cell was a ventilation grill, which led to an unused corridor filled with pipes. This area wasn't guarded often. If they could break through the wall behind the vent, they could reach the corridor and eventually the roof of the prison. Using stolen spoons and a drill made from a vacuum cleaner motor, the men slowly dug holes around the vents in their cells, creating a secret workshop. Once the holes were big enough, they crawled into the corridor and built a secret workshop above their cell block. Here, they worked on building escape tools. They used more than 50 stolen raincoats to make life jackets and a rubber raft. They even made paddles from wood and screws. But they had another problem. If they left their cells at night, the guards might notice. So they made fake heads using soap, paper, and real human hair collected from the prison barber shop. These heads were placed in their beds at night and looked real enough to fool the guards during checks. The Great Escape Night, on the night of June 11, 1962, everything was perfectly planned. After dinner, The prisoners returned to their cells and quietly waited. At 9:30 p.m., when the lights went out, the escape began. Frank Morris, along with John and Clarence Anglin, removed the air vents from their cells and slipped into a hidden utility corridor. Alan West, the fourth member of the escape plan, had a problem. He couldn't break through the final section of concrete in time and was forced to stay behind. The other three continued. They gathered their homemade tools and climbed a narrow shaft up to the prison roof. They had loosened the rooftop vent weeks earlier. Once on the roof, they carefully avoided the guard towers, climbed down a 100-foot pipe, and crossed the prison yard. Using a makeshift raft crafted from raincoats, they reached the edge of the cold, dark bay and disappeared into the night. By morning, the guards realized something was wrong during the head count. Inside the cells, they found fake Papier McSee heads with real hair. A full-scale manhunt began, involving the police, FBI, and military. West, who had failed to escape, revealed their full plan to reach Angel Island, steal a car from the mainland, and vanish. In December 1962, another inmate swam to shore, proving it was possible. Over the years, strange clues appeared: postcards, flowers on their mother's grave, and even a 1975 photo from Brazil said to show the Anglin brothers alive. In 2013, a letter surfaced from someone claiming to be John Anglin, saying Frank died in 2008 and Clarence in 2011. Though the FBI closed the case in 1979, the U.S. Marshals keep it open. Alcatraz shut down just 9 months after the escape, but the legend still lives on.